Welcome to 2016 Presidential Candidate Interviews. Today I'm interviewing Rebecca Pfleiderer. Rebecca is running as an independent. Hello, Rebecca, and welcome to the interview. How are you doing, and thank you for participating.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Good. We'll start with some getting to know you questions so people can get to know you. Can you describe your family, maybe your life at home?
Sure. I live alone. I actually live on a HUD BASH voucher down in south of Harrisonville, Missouri. I have a dog. I've got 4 beautiful children, Lloyd, Caleb, Patience, and Jacob, whom I adore and love very much. And that's basically it.
Describe your employment, your work experience.
I began my work experience most notably with the military. I joined the Army and traveled to Bamberg, Germany, and served at the brigade headquarters of the HHC Engineer Brigade. I reported monthly to the 1st Infantry Division Commander on our troop allocation, and I assisted with pre-war activities and deployment, starting with going into Turkey and then on through into Iraq. I got a lot of leadership skills there, a lot of great mentors who I'm still friends with to this day. After I left the Army, I went on and worked as a human resource manager for a company called Vishay Dell Electronics. This is a Fortune 1000 company specializing, actually they're the world's largest manufacturer of semiconductors and electronic components. And that company actually shut its doors and outsourced to India and Mexico. And so at that time, my family and I, we journeyed on down, that was in Nebraska. So then after that, we journeyed on down to Missouri, and that's where I've been since. And I helped open a small chiropractic office in Clinton, Missouri. And while I was doing that, I attended school at University of Central Missouri and worked on a lot of research in the psychology department. I had special honors of giving talks to the research department to all the students and faculty. It's an honor that's usually just devoted to faculty, usually from other colleges and universities. And so I really put a lot of work and time into that. And the type of research I was doing was actually leading into the business that I have now. It's in the field of industrial organizational psychology. So I was looking at the physical aspects of work environments and how they affected employee job satisfaction and performance. I was a McNair Scholar, and so, again, I was highly mentored by some of the most brilliant and wise people, constantly supported in my endeavors to further my employment opportunities and enrich my work experience. I went on to work with the Department of Defense, and I administered the ASVAB test to students and enlistees throughout the state of Missouri. I also contracted with Verizon Wireless as a wireless consultant, and I was on the top of their sales for 3 months in a row, and I did very well with that. I loved that job, most importantly because I did things a little bit differently than most salespeople. I actually went to my customers' homes and installed their internet and helped them with their phone technical difficulties, and I really take a lot of pride in my work, and so that's why I did pretty well there. And I also taught some college business courses for State Fair Community College. I taught for 3 years. I taught human resources and introduction to business. Teaching has always been a goal of mine. I'm pursuing my PhD currently in industrial organizational psychology. With my master's degree, I earned that through Avila University in Kansas City. And that pretty much sums it up.
Okay. What are your hobbies and your interests?
Well, kind of as I've already touched on school and research, I'm kind of a nerd. I've really liked school. Research is a hobby of mine. I like to use my hobby to make the world a better place. So like making organizations more healthy. I like to explore local museums as well as their history. And I love thrift shopping. I like finding neat little treasures and things locally and then maybe researching the history behind it. I do a lot of just nonchalant reading online about different science and technology issues as well.
Okay. Your favorite place to eat out?
Ruby Tuesdays.
Okay. Favorite fast food joint?
Taco John's. I love the meat and potato burrito and potato Lay's with cheese.
Okay. Any favorite junk food you wouldn't let your kids watch eat at, like 2 a.m. in the morning?
Anything chocolate is my favorite junk food.
Okay. Any favorite TV shows or movies?
Let's see. Children of Men was one that I really... anything that really elicits emotion from me. Beastmaster was also a nice movie. I like to watch Charlie Rose and anything PBS. I try to stay away from news and other television. I'll be honest, I really don't watch a lot of TV at all.
Okay. You mentioned a pet earlier. Do you want to discuss your pets anymore?
Sure, I love my dog. His name is Shorin Ryu. He's named after my two older boys are advanced purple belts in Shorin Ryu Matsubayashi style of karate. And so I named my dog Shorin Ryu, which means little forest. He's a Borador, 6 months old, and Borador is a part lab and part border collie. And we've been doing obedience training and just bonding. Like I said, he's 6 months old, so he's a puppy and he's ornery, but we're bonding, and I love him very much. He's my best friend.
Okay. And the final icebreaker question, do you have a song that you consider your life anthem, a motto, something that represents who you are?
Do Something by Matthew West, I believe. It's probably going to have to hit that nail on the head. Actually, it's been the song that's pushed me and motivated me to run for presidency because there's so many things going on in the world, and I'm just one of those people that can't sit back and just do nothing. I want to try to get my hands dirty and do something to give back and try to help to make the world a better place.
All right. And now for the issues, serious questions. Why are you running for president?
Well, let's see. I really always wanted to run. I'm finally going to be old enough. I actually turned 35 this October. I kind of feel like it's more of a calling or a sacrifice than a job. I think our country is ready for the type of leadership that I can provide. The people really deserve to be heard. Also, I'm a sinner, and I have no problem admitting my faults. This is where growth and learning take place. But you've got to understand, I am a flip-flopper because as new information is presented to me, I can be open-minded enough to adapt my way of thinking. A lot of my friends and family also support me, and everyone that I ask, if I talk to people in public at the gas stations or at the thrift stores that I'm at shopping, I talk with people in the public and I ask them, would you vote for me? And I explain to them what my platform is, and I haven't had anybody tell me no yet. So that's enough confirmation for me to be sure that we're going to win.
Okay. What abilities would you bring to the office of president?
I can relate to many of the citizens in this country. I am a disabled veteran who has experienced homelessness. I'm a mother who's experienced the loss of parental rights. I'm also a small business owner. I've owned a home, and I filed bankruptcy. I've had it all and lost it all. I'm a very spiritual person who trusts in my Heavenly Father, and I seek guidance from Him. I'm also a facilitative leader. I'm able to listen to the people and serve as their voice. I've been selected for many different leadership roles in my life, and I've always added value to the situation with my rich background from military and civilian careers and my educational background as well.
Are there any presidents you have a favorable opinion of who have aspects of their presidency you would want to emulate? Who are they, and what and why would you want to emulate?
Let's see. I would have to say the first and the last. So Washington, because the revolution, and I'm going to be part of our country's evolution, like the evolutional turning point where we can once again regain our freedom. Obama, he's the last president. He's, my predecessor, because he was able to reach a younger group of voters and get more people involved in the political scene, and he showed people that the American dream is attainable.
Are there any presidents you have a not-so-positive opinion of who have aspects of their presidency you would not want to emulate?
I wouldn't put it as not having a positive image of them, but maybe kind of on the flip side, Kennedy and Lincoln were both very idolized, and I don't want to be idolized. I'm just another citizen, another human. I want to work hand in hand with the American people, with my fellow brothers and sisters. And also, they were assassinated. I'd like to enjoy my life to the fullest and die of old age. So,
okay. Are there any functions of government you'd like to decrease or abolish, and why?
Yes. Abolish, I don't know. Maybe reassess. Definitely we need to kind of take our temperature and collect some data, see what's working in our country. And from reports that I've read, there, of course, we have a huge deficit. I've seen reports from HUD, the HUD agency, for instance. There's so much money that gets funneled into that department, and it never reaches the people. It seems like it gets stuck in all of the mire of politics and all the government, and it's just not trickling down to actually house the homeless. And so I really think the Treasury Department needs to be audited by the public. I'd like to see the prison system also revamped completely.
Are there any functions of government you'd like to add to or increase? Are there any departments, functions that don't even exist that you'd like to create?
Yes and no. And when you say departments, I'm thinking even more specific. What comes to mind for me, what I'm talking about, what works and doing more of what works, that's the kind of psychology and kind of business consultant that I am. Is I like to use appreciative inquiry. It's discover, dream, design, and destiny. And I like to take, a creative approach. And I know from my personal experience, Head Start, for instance, is a great program. I believe investing in our youth. The Big Brother and Big Sister Association is another one that also it gave me a vision of what the world was like outside of my confined societal scope. So I could actually see what else is out there in the world to offer me. So I was able to go to Pizza Hut for the first time, for instance, and I was in ballet, and it offered me a lot of opportunities that I otherwise wouldn't have had. Other mentoring programs in schools. I actually have a great idea for a curriculum program that I'd like to share maybe some other time. It's pretty in-depth, but I think it's a great mentoring program and looking up and children practicing how to give and receive advice from people, from their elders, people that have been there and done that already. Court reform, that's another big one. I really feel very passionately about reforming our court system. I'd also like better and elder disabled care improvements. I'd like to see more space exploration, of course, alternative energies, and most importantly, our hand in world peace by role modeling behaviors that will get us there. I know that some of that's not really funding departments, but those are some of my passions and some things that I'm interested in assisting us as a country in improving upon.
Describe your stance on taxation.
Well, let's see. As a facilitative leader, I honestly would rather query the American people for some of their creative options and take a vote.
Your stance on the abortion pro-choice issue.
Again, I'd say let the people decide.
What role should our military play in the world?
The military should play humanitarian, be more involved in humanitarian efforts. They should be defenders of our homeland. And again, I'm a veteran myself. I'm very patriotic, and I'm not as strong of a supporter of war as most people think that veterans or active military would be, basically because my faith, my spirituality, I believe that we can win wars by peace.
How would you handle immigration and border security?
Well, I envision a future without borders. But again, I'd query the American citizens and see what their thoughts are.
Okay. What role should the federal government play in health care?
I think less government involvement is always good. I'd like to see something like neighborhood doctors who can quickly and affordably treat the sick in their community. Pharmaceuticals and medicine in general are way too high priced for the services that they perform. I'd say government needs to butt out.
How do you perceive the issues of race and discrimination in America? Do we still face challenges? How do you address these types of issues?
We do. We definitely do still face challenges with race and discrimination. Discrimination is prevalent in many forms, though. Police reform is something that's been in the media a lot lately. Of course, we can all agree is a must. I've been thinking that a voluntary police force might actually be more effective. I might piss a lot of people off in saying that, excuse my language, but I don't know. I mean, it's just in brainstorming, there's a lot of creative options out there. But again, I would just really like to ask the people what they want. Genetic discrimination is something that I studied early on in my education, and it's really important that we kind of stay on the cusp, because as fast as technology races, we need to make sure that legislation can keep up with the recurring injustices, as well as becoming more proactive in preventing new ones.
What priority would you give repair of infrastructure? What should the federal government's role have in maintaining infrastructure?
Well, look around. There are vacant buildings everywhere. Possibly incentivizing homeowners to shelter the homeless. Of course, like in some cases, there might want to be a liability waiver if the house has some, if it's lacking integrity and poses any kind of a threat of collapsing. We wouldn't want to put anybody into that situation. But, I mean, if you ask a homeless person, that even would be better than living on the streets. It might be possible that instead of rent, maybe the tenant can do some work to improve the home.
Where do you stand on the issue of personal privacy and the need to gather intelligence to protect from the terrorists? Some people think there's a conflict between personal liberties, the right to privacy, and then gathering intelligence to protect our nation.
I really think the government just needs to butt out of our lives. I think for a lot of it we can self-govern. I think by nature we're good people until you start taking away our rights. I think media and terrorism go hand in hand. I believe we need to redirect our media to more positive things.
Okay, this is kind of a sensitive question for some people, but a lot of voters care about it, so this is why I ask. It's not a litmus test. There's not really a right-wrong answer, but what role does faith, religion, spirituality, etc. play in your life, and what type of role would it play for you as a president?
Well, I'm a daughter of God. I seek His guidance as often as I think to, which is almost constant. So in my life and making decisions moment for moment, am I going to the grocery store now? Am I going to pay this bill or that bill? I always seek the Lord's guidance in that, as well as, as my role as president. Any decisions that would have to be made, I run everything through my Heavenly Father.
Be kind of a forecaster. Predict maybe one or two major problems facing our country in the future that few people are talking about. What would you do to prepare people for these situations?
All right. Well, this is fun. Well, science has shown us that California is slipping away. It's disappearing underwater. I'd like to see a contingency plan put into place. We'll just leave it at that. Another one that's not been discussed a lot, but I think could be a turning point for everyone in the world, actually, is if we think about something as imminent as global evacuation. I believe that each voting district should be responsible for generating a plan to evacuate their citizens. This could be something that's like a unifying goal that we can all work towards globally and may have a hand in world peace.
Okay. Everybody has strengths and everybody has weaknesses. Everybody has things they're really good at and things that they're not good at all. What are some of the things you may not be good at and some of the things that are your weaknesses, and what would you do to compensate for those areas?
anybody that knows me would agree, practicing and pausing and reflecting before I speak to see, sometimes it's easy to get wrapped up or maybe want to say something instead of listening really well. We're pretty selfish, a lot of times, and maybe we don't take the time we need to think about what we're going to say before we say it. So I need to, practice pausing and reflecting before I speak to make sure that what I say might not negatively affect others.
Are there any other issues you would like to discuss that have not been covered so far?
Well, as a mother, I really think that parental alienation syndrome or pathogenic parenting is something that is rampant in this country. It's an epidemic. And not just that. I mean, the courts have been taking children from their parents, mothers and fathers, and I hate to see this happen. I think that as a psychologist myself, I think that it leads to attachment issues. And like I mentioned earlier, I want to put our focus and our priority back into our youth, and I think that beginning their lives with unhealthy attachments is not a good path to start them on it. And so that's something I'm very passionate about. There's thousands of parents and children that have been affected by this across the country. I'd like to see psychology more prevalent in the court systems. Overall, I'd just like to investigate some ways to reform the court systems, most of all.
Okay. What are some reasons the courts have been taking children away from their parents?
I'm sorry?
Can you give some reasons why the courts have been taking children away from their parents? Maybe some extreme, crazy reasons?
Oh, well, there's not even reason. Sometimes there's no due process. Like, in my case, there wasn't a hearing. There's corruption, and I know that sounds, sci-fi or whatever, but it happens. And unfortunately, it happens all too often. I was thinking recently, just maybe it would be better if the divorce court, instead of being held in the jurisdiction where they live, put the divorce court in the next county over, so that the people that you live and work with are not going to be able to directly affect the decisions of the court.
Okay, so it sounds like in the process there might be kind of get-even tactics by the opponents in a divorce settlement, spreading allegations and rumors, and then the court just reacts to that. And
that could be, that could definitely be a possibility. Also, it's money. You look at downtown revitalization projects and community development grants. Well, what's downtown? That's your city government. So the money that's, that's coming from the same place that HUD, generates their funds from, it's all to revitalize and make the downtown beautiful. But what the citizens aren't seeing is that money is actually getting into lawyers' pockets, and it's just circulating within that program and never really reaching the ground. And so, they say money is the root of all evil, and I think that unfortunately it's devastating America right now. The money is not being appropriated in the correct manner. So,
time for some closing remarks. In 2 minutes or less, tell us why we should vote for you.
I'm not a dirty politician. I'm not raising any campaign funds at all. My campaign is completely word-of-mouth, grassroots approach. Just talking with people and asking them to share, if they'll vote for me. I'm not going to try to buy the seat. I think that if someone is going to be elected president, it's going to be because they're deserving of it, because people elected them. I'll work for minimum wage and request Congress to do the same. I'd also like to consider moving the White House to the Midwest. As drastic and crazy as that sounds, I think it'd be great to make the White House more accessible to the people. I'll never sign any executive document without a majority vote from the people on every issue.
Okay, thank you for participating in the interview. I'd like to thank my listeners for listening. Please check again in the future for more candidate interviews. Have a good day. Remember to keep informed and keep involved. Thank you for the interview again.
Wonderful.